This is Optimal Startup Daily Episode 713, 5 Lessons from the First 6 Months of Entrepreneurship by Julien Saunders of richandregular.com. And hey again, welcome back to Optimal Startup Daily, where I read to you every day from some of the best blogs on entrepreneurship. And I'm going to keep the intro nice and short for you today as we get to the post and optimize your life. 5 Lessons from the First 6 Months of Entrepreneurship by Julien Saunders of richandregular.com. Entrepreneurship is not a pretty word. It's not easy to spell, it's long and kind of funny looking, and for most people, just the thought of being a business owner and carrying all of the responsibility gives them the chills. But for the select few that consider themselves entrepreneurial, like us, it's a word that ignites fireworks. Seriously, whenever a really great idea pops into our minds, it's a spine-tingling, full-body experience. Like, we don't do hardcore, but we imagine a similar high is felt whenever people are on or whatever crazy these kids are doing these days. We are not natural entrepreneurs. Mr. R&R was creative as a kid and young adult, but didn't think about starting a business until he was in his mid-20s. Mrs. R&R, on the other hand, has been side hustling since she was a teenager. During her awkward years, she was making and selling t-shirts and babysitting after school. Even with that experience under her belt, she didn't actually start a business until, well, now. It's been 6 months since we officially shifted our thinking to turn this blog into a business, and the journey has been crazy, in a good way. As expected, we've had ups and downs, and we've learned a ton in the process. So to make sure we don't forget this precious period, here are 5 lessons we've learned from our first 6 months of entrepreneurship. 1. Owning your time is a gift. Look, we have a 2-year-old son, and as much as we hate stereotypes, sometimes the terrible twos are terrible. But we get it. There's a lot going on in that big old baby head of his. He's trying to figure out why oranges are the color orange, bananas aren't the color banana, and why grapefruits don't taste like grapes, the fruit. Whenever he's grumpy and a little clingy during daycare drop-off, it's comforting to know we can linger a while, get down on one knee, and reassure him we'll be back to pick him up like we always have been. Many of the other parents we see aren't so lucky. It's heartbreaking to see parents rushing out the door and starting conference calls in the daycare hallway because they know every second matters at their jobs or in the ATL commute. In those moments, we're grateful of the tag team approach we've chosen because it enables us to prioritize his needs over our work needs at a moment's notice. 2. But owning your time is also a curse. Struggles with prioritization is the curse that comes with the gift of time. As entrepreneurs, your list of things to do is never-ending, and new ideas come to you all the time. One minute you're clicking on all cylinders, and the next you're opening another Google Doc or the Notes app to capture lightning in a bottle. It's exhausting and energizing at the same time. The good news is there's a much deeper sense of fulfillment in the work you do, so whether you're completing light tasks or checking off the really big stuff, knowing that all of them add immediate value to your life is amazing. 3. The sense of fulfillment is endless and immediate. Before quitting, Mr. R&R worked in a corporate environment for 10 years. By all measures, some of those years were spent in cushy roles. You know the ones. You go to work, you talk in a few meetings, you send a few emails, and you come home. Somewhere in between talking the CCs and the eye-roll-inducing BCCs, you're supposed to be, quote-unquote, making things happen. The thing is, when you work for a big company, it's really hard to actually get things done because the business environment is so complex. It's not enough that you've held up your end of the bargain. You also have to corral the other people who need to see, approve, integrate, and act on your work within a reasonable timeline and budget to accomplish the overarching goal. As entrepreneurs, we don't have that problem because there are fewer links in the chain between an idea's creation and getting it done. Furthermore, when you do get something done, the sense of fulfillment or value added is immediate, and you don't have to worry about someone else interpreting it differently. It's just done, and it feels so good. 4. Even giving is better. One of the primary reasons we are pursuing financial independence is because we want to spend more of our time, energy, and money solving problems we care about. As an employee, you don't really have much time to do that unless you sacrifice your work, personal, family, or even vacation time. For example, not too long ago, Mr. R&R felt like doing some volunteer work, so he signed up for a volunteer session at the Atlanta Community Food Bank, ACFB. It wasn't a corporate team outing followed by forced fun cocktail hours. And it wasn't the holiday season. It was just a random Wednesday and he felt like helping out, so he did. For 3 hours, he stacked and broke down boxes to keep a giant assembly line of donated food products flowing smoothly. It was a humbling reminder of what an honest day's work really feels like, and a great workout. On another note, it was a glaring reminder of how our government and big industry has selective empathy. If we felt compelled to donate to ACFB or any other organization, we could just do it, which is way better than pretending to care about the cause your employer thought was worthy of your time, and in some cases, your money. No shade to those causes, just saying. Summing up the first 6 months in one word is impossible unless you pull a Music Soul Child and say some ish like emotional roller coaster hoping for a better future, boo. It's been a whirlwind of ups and downs, but mostly ups. As Mr. R&R gets bolder and more creative, Mrs. R&R serves as our anchor, making sure we color within the lines. As the primary breadwinner, she provides the cushion we need to survive the entrepreneurial journey whole. But it's not always easy, especially now that our workdays are so different. Through it all, we're encouraged because we see the light at the end of the tunnel and we feel well prepared to handle the season of change creeping over the horizon. We can only hope we're more fit to weather the storm than Mrs. R&R was to do a pull-up. And 5, having a community is so important. We talk a lot about the F.I.R.E. community because, honestly, it's one of the best parts of the F.I.R.E. movement. Little did we know the same is true for entrepreneurship. Over the past 6 months, we've spent more time with other entrepreneurs than we have in our entire lives. We've met people who are sitting on patents worth a gold mine, digital entrepreneurs, writers, consultants, creatives, and real estate investors. While they all have different stories and varying degrees of success, not a single one of them had a regret for undertaking the journey. To be fair, they were all working really hard, but they've tapped into an energy source I don't believe most people have access to until you take the leap. Otherwise, you'll be stuck trying to explain your life decisions to people who don't speak your language. Do we have regrets? Absolutely not. We're a family, and everything we do is for the betterment of our family. Do we have any tips? Of course. Get out of debt. Get out of debt by any means necessary and as fast as humanly possible. While we don't have any other life to compare it to, starting a business as a debt-free entrepreneur who already earns passive income is so much easier than the alternative. In a way, you could say during our debt payoff days, we were building a runway for this business. Now, we're bracing for takeoff. You just listened to the post titled 5 Lessons from the First 6 Months of Entrepreneurship by Julien Saunders of richandregular.com. And thank you to Julien, our author today. In 2012, Mr. and Mrs. R&R had their first conversation and argument about money. Luckily, they recovered from it and somehow gained the courage to tackle some really difficult conversations about money with their friends, family, and each other. Over the next 5 years, they paid off $200,000 in debt, dramatically boosted their net worth, and learned a lifetime of lessons along the way. They started Rich and Regular in 2017 after their stint in real estate investing led them to discover the F.I.R.E. movement, that's financial independence, retire early. At that point, they'd listened to their friends complain about doing everything right and still not feeling happy with the financial progress they'd made. Their blog became a place where they not only shared in their frustrations, but offered solutions to a rich and happier life. They could not have imagined that just a few years later, they'd sign a book deal with the world's largest publisher, Penguin Random House. But that's not all. Their blog has afforded them opportunities to work with incredible brands, world-class media, and into the fast-paced world of digital entrepreneurship. Today, Rich and Regular has grown into a community of like-minded people, and because of them, their mission became clear: to inspire better conversations about money. You can find their work at richandregular.com, and their content is regularly featured over on Optimal Finance Daily as well, so you can check out that podcast for a lot more from them. But I think that does it for today. I thank you so much for being a subscriber or follower of the show, depending on what podcast app you're using, and hope you have a great rest of your day. And then I'll see you right back here tomorrow, where your optimal life awaits.